I can try to sugarcoat it 1,000,000 times, but the truth is that's all I'm going to do. Turn something that should never have happened to my advantage. But it did. My name is Daryl Townsend, and I work as a bridge designer. I regularly speak at events organized by several organizations that like to milk local authorities. About once every 2 months, I travel to a conference. My company benefits greatly from the referrals I get at these events. Thanks to this, I earn more money than I ever dreamed possible. I've been married to Peggy for 5 years, whom I started dating in my senior year of college. She had already graduated, but took additional courses to become a nurse. She successfully completed all the requirements and now works at a hospital, where she also earns a good salary. About 2 years ago, we bought our first home and live in a very prestigious gated community. Dual income, no kids, that's us. Kids are part of our long-term plans, but neither of us wants to change our lifestyle of luxury vacations and parties. I know it sounds like an excuse, but I guess it is. My week started off badly. On Wednesday, I got food poisoning. After spending most of Thursday in the emergency room, I only slept for 2 hours. The medication didn't help settle my stomach. This continued throughout Saturday and Sunday. I didn't eat anything normal for several days and didn't want to eat. On Sunday, my flight was delayed due to a winter storm that affected flights out of O'Hare Airport. I missed the start of the conference and the welcome reception. On the way to the hotel, some idiot ran a red light and the car next to me crashed into my rental car. By the time I had filled out all the paperwork for the insurance company and the police, my blood pressure was sky high. Fortunately, I had fully insured the rental car this time. These meetings usually end around 10, and I arrived at 9:30. A double shot of scotch without ice started my downfall. Most of my acquaintances had already left, but dozens of people remained. Government employees love parties. I found myself at a table with several drunk people. After the second round, I also felt a little drunk. A shapely lady was forced to press herself against me so that a few more people could join our table. My downward spiral was on its way to a medal. She was pushing me to the limit. At least we left the dance floor, but we quickly met up on my floor. As soon as the door was locked, I admired her little striptease. "Let me undress you," she said, pushing me onto the bed. She threw away the used condom, and we fell asleep in each other's arms. When I opened my eyes in the morning, I was racked with guilt. I never found out her name. At least I don't think so. When I made it to the bathroom, my stomach gave way and I started vomiting. While I was in the shower, I realized I hadn't called Peggy since I spoke to her while the police were investigating the accident. That wasn't like me. I caught up with her just before she left for her shift. She was furious, and I think I would have been too. There was no time for the truth, so I started lying. The next few days felt like an eternity. I knew I would never be able to hide my betrayal from Peggy. She reads me like an open book, and even my friends noticed that I wasn't in my usual cheerful mood. Whoever this woman was, she must have left because no one approached me. I can't say that I recognized her during the presentations. My calls home every morning and evening must have alarmed Peggy. As soon as I walked in the door, she knew something was wrong. After I put my suitcase in the bedroom, she stood in the doorway. "Spill it." My eyes filled with tears as I tried to remember the speech I had rehearsed. All I could say was, "I'm so sorry." By the time I left, I feared for my life. An abandoned woman is not just a myth. The house was littered with broken picture frames, chairs, lamps, and anything else that wasn't nailed down. I had awakened a demon in her, and she made sure I knew what a worthless piece of trash I was. Peggy and I barely spoke for 2 weeks while I lived in a cheap motel by the highway. But one night, everything changed. "Daryl, I've made a decision. Meet me at El Burrito at 6 p.m., she said coldly and without emotion. I wanted to respond, but Peggy hung up immediately. I don't know what it's like to stand in front of a firing squad, but as I waited at El Burrito, I was as nervous as a virgin at a fraternity party. When Peggy walked in, she rejected my attempts to hug or kiss her. She was focused solely on business. I don't want to hear your apologies. You have no idea how much you hurt me. I'll tell you what you need to do to get us back together. Peggy opened her tablet, and I saw a page on a social media site. The photo was of a woman wearing a carnival mask and very revealing red lingerie. Judging by the size and shape of what was visible, I was almost certain it was Peggy. It wasn't a selfie, so I hoped it wasn't taken by some guy she slept with out of revenge. I studied the profile under Peggy's stern gaze and noticed the status married with the right to cheat. Peggy, is this your page? What will your friends, our friends, think? No, I created a new account. On the first night, I got over 1,000 responses. I changed the settings to limit followers to a 50-mile radius, but I still get about 100 responses every day. Lots of photos of their manhood. Peggy, why don't you just get revenge on your husband with sex? I didn't mean to cheat on you, but it happened. Let it go and forget about it. Unlike you, I don't jump into bed with the first guy I meet. I want to be sure that my affair is with someone who is worthy of me. Maybe I'll go out for coffee or dinner with him first, see if there's any chemistry between us. You can come with us. I won't hide anything from you. As soon as I decide whether it's a one-time fling or a long weekend like yours, I'll let you know. You say it was just one night? But why should I believe you? I need to think about it. Are you staying for dinner? If you're paying. Dinner was very awkward. It was almost impossible to discuss what was on everyone's mind. As we were leaving, I asked, Daryl, when can I expect your answer? I want you to come back, but I don't know if I can do this. How about we meet here tomorrow at 6? Sure. Bye. She didn't even look back as she walked away. I was in deep shit. I tried to look at it from Peggy's perspective. If I found out she had a one-night stand, I would be devastated. I would ask myself questions. Where did I go wrong? Is it just me, or did I do something wrong? All these things that I hoped were just in my imagination gave me a little insight into what I had done to Peggy. For me, it was just sex. If she could forgive me, I think I could grit my teeth and get through it. It would just be sex, unless she didn't like it. Peggy and I met at 6, again, to talk business. We ate in silence, although I agreed she could make one mistake. I had no idea that was just the beginning. She had hurt me deeply, and now she was going to twist the knife. On Saturday morning, I returned home. Peggy had been glued to her computer for hours. She declined my invitation to dinner, so I ordered pizza delivery. This is crazy, Daryl. I have 200 unread messages. I think I'm going to chat with some of these hotties. Don't worry, I'll do it right in front of you. I'm not going to hide like someone we know. If that was supposed to cheer me up, it didn't work. The thought of her spreading her legs was killing me. But this form of torture made my stomach twist into a knot. Peggy was sitting in her chair and I was in mine when her cell phone rang. Hello? Yes, it's me. Thanks for calling. Tell me what you have planned for tonight. I didn't sleep with her that night, preferring to fall asleep on the couch. Every night was the same. She tormented me with every call. Soon it escalated to video chat. Oh my God, you weren't kidding. That's impressive. I was determined not to sleep with Peggy until she stopped this nonsense, but that only seemed to make her more aggressive. Some of the callers started calling uninvited. Peggy would brush them off. Don't call me anymore. I'll let you know if I like you. Wait until I tell you to call. Got it? Then another call came in, but this one was invited to talk. No, it was a one-time thing. Yes, even if you're the best I've ever had. Although I'm sure he still has his mistress's number, so I might keep yours. Gradually, my love turned to hate. When are you finally going to make up your mind, Peggy? When I'm ready. When will we make love again? When will you share your bed with me again? Not until you finish your revenge with your pass to paradise. Well, I can just keep it for a long time. What will you do then, huh? Answer me. You started this shit and I'll make you pay for it. You destroyed me. You have no idea how much you hurt me. I'll make sure you never forget it. If I had stayed, I would have said something I couldn't take back. So I left and booked a motel room. That only made the next few nights worse as I weeded out potential candidates. One night it went like this. Good question. Let me ask him. He wants to know if we can do something we haven't tried yet. Have you tried that with your whore? He's not answering, so I can try anything I want. The next evening, no condom, I don't care what you say. Another night, and I was close to breaking down. Maybe you're right. This is no different from watching porn. Wow, you've gone so high and so far. No, I'm not interested in your brother joining us. The end came the night the conversation went like this. Well, I think he'll be there to protect me. Let me check. I gave her the middle finger and spent another night in a motel. I'd had enough. The next day, I took a leave of absence from work and moved out. As I walked through the house for the last time, I made sure I had taken everything I wanted. Nothing connected to our past remained. My wedding ring and a copy of the divorce papers lay on the bed. My note was simple. You won. Enjoy your life. I was too immature to get married. I'm sorry I couldn't keep my wedding vows. I hope I'll be better to my next wife. Enjoy your pass. Daryl. Although I didn't feel any ill will toward her, I went online and changed her status on social media to divorced with a pass. Peggy's discovery. Daryl was supposed to make dinner, but his car wasn't in the garage. I checked my phone and saw a bunch of messages from friends, but no calls or texts from Daryl. I hope he's okay. I walked into the house, threw my keys on the table, kicked off my shoes, and tousled my hair. I opened a bottle of wine and poured myself a healthy dose of happiness. My attempt to call Daryl ended in voicemail. I crossed my legs and sat down in an armchair. Time to read my missed messages and emails. Hey girl, how's it going? Call me. From my best friend. I wonder what she wants. Sorry, sweetie. I'm always here for you. From one of my coworkers. Damn, I saw her at lunch. The message from my mother was also mysterious. Weren't you supposed to tell me about that? I called her. Hi, Mom. Why didn't you tell me? Tell you what? About your divorce. What divorce? Daryl and I are going through a rough patch, but we're not getting divorced. Then why is your status divorced with the right to have affairs? Wait, I panicked and opened the app. Damn, I changed my status back to married. I have to go, Mom, I said, and hung up without waiting for her answer. Daryl didn't answer my calls or messages. Almost all the messages were from my followers, wishing me luck and offering support. My vision blurred and my limbs trembled. With unsteady steps, I hurried to our bedroom. The ring and papers on the bed drew me like a magnet. My heart broke when I realized I had pushed Daryl away. I called him dozens of times. Daryl's mother's call was useless. Hi, Mom. Have you heard from Daryl? Yes, dear, I have. He asked me not to tell you where he went. How are you? I'm desperate. We tried to work things out, but he just gave up. You have to tell him how much I love him. I can't promise anything, Peggy. I've never seen him so distant. His eyes were empty. He answered in monosyllables and couldn't wait to leave. He said, "You win," whatever that means. There was no emotion in his words. Let's get a divorce. I really hope you can work things out. I cried, Me too, Mom, me too. Some of his things were gone. I was devastated again. How could he leave like that? It was a difficult night. Friends called, but I didn't answer. The call I prayed for never came. I woke up in the same clothes I had worn to work the day before. There were obvious signs that I hadn't slept well. My eyes were sticky, and I had to put on extra makeup to look presentable. Work was awful because everyone found out about my marital crisis. I caught myself daydreaming and wiping away tears. Finally, my boss sent me home, telling me to pull myself together or take a vacation. Daryl's calls to work only made me feel worse. He took a leave of absence, and I wasn't given any details. I thought it was Daryl ringing the doorbell, but soon I discovered that I had been officially served with divorce papers. That stupid disposable phone rang several times a day. In the end, I closed my social media accounts and turned off my phone. I understood only one thing. Men will do anything to get free sex. I wanted love. I wanted my life back. The pain of Daryl's betrayal was nothing compared to what I was feeling now, thinking about a life without him. The hopes and dreams I had for a family with him were driving me crazy. What if I refused to sign? My lawyer said, "Everything will happen as it should. It will just take longer and cost more." What about mandatory counseling? Unlikely, since you don't have children. The courts have more important things to do than settle disputes between two people who can't get along. But we get along. That's why he filed for divorce. This is a misunderstanding. Can't you ask his lawyer to at least call me? I'll mention it in my report to the court. Are you signing or not? No, I don't want a divorce, and it won't be granted without my consent. As you wish. I'll send you the bill for this month. All the best. Daryl's time away from home. I spent 2 weeks at my uncle's apartment west of Phoenix. I was running out of money and didn't want to reveal my location by using credit cards. Did they even work? I spent most of my time walking around the golf courses in Sun City. Golf took my mind off things. My self-analysis told me that if I really loved Peggy, I would never have given in to temptation. Until that fateful night, I sincerely believed that I loved her with all my heart. Was I really such a small person? How could I have been so weak? I was right when I wrote to Peggy that I was immature. The other side of the coin was how viciously Peggy had arranged her freedom. Did she really do that after I left? The mere thought of it made me sick, but I had only myself to blame. Still, I never expected Peggy to torment me like that. If she had left for just one night and come back the next day, we would still be together. 2 weeks without a phone were tough. I realized that I missed social media and watching meaningless videos of people I had never met and never wanted to meet. I vowed to get rid of these habits in my new life. When I returned to the city, it was almost midnight, so I stayed at the motel by the highway again. The same clerk greeted me. "Hey, where have you been?" In the morning, I turned on my phone. My voicemail was full. I had used up my SMS limit. I called my mom, and she invited me over for breakfast. Dad had already left for work. "Good morning, Mom," I said, hugging her gently. "You look much better than the last time I saw you." "Yes, I spent a long time looking at myself in the mirror. I didn't like what I saw." "Ready to tell me what led to that?" "I cheated on Peggy. To stay together, I gave her freedom. It wasn't enough for her, and the psychological abuse took its toll on me. She'll never let me forget it, so I decided divorce was best for both of us. Since she calls here every day, I doubt she feels the same way. She says she won't sign the divorce papers." "Why? To torment me even more?" "I've reached my limit. She wanted me to suffer, and I did. But married people don't behave like me or her. I know I still have a lot to learn, but so does she. She came to see you several times and cried on your shoulder. She really regrets pushing you away. Did you talk to her after you left?" "No, I didn't have the courage." "You need to sit down and talk to her. Come to some understanding of what the future holds for both of you. It's time for you to kiss and make up or break up. She's suffering. You're suffering. What a couple you are. It's obvious to me that you still love each other." I sat in my car in front of the house waiting for Peggy to come home from work. I had an hour, and I was going through my missed emails. I could almost feel her emotional pain as she begged me to come home. The threat of losing her was gone. In her last email, she even said she would never mention my infidelity or losing her again, and that it could be part of the agreement after the divorce. Her voice messages were full of anxiety. Tears welled up in my eyes. After reading her text messages, I was convinced that she really wanted to work things out. It was time to leave work, and Peggy still wasn't there. I was about to leave when a tire company truck pulled up at an angle to my car. Peggy jumped out of the passenger seat and opened my door. To say I was confused was an understatement. Was this her new boyfriend? Were all her messages lies? "You're back. I love you. I love you. I love you." Then who was that? "You said you needed to get your tires changed, so I left the car after work. They offer free delivery and pick up the car when it's ready. They'll pick me up when it's done. Who do you think that was?" "It doesn't matter. Can we talk?" "Yes, here, in the house, wherever you want." "How about the porch?" Peggy ran to the swing on the porch and beamed when I approached. "I'm sorry I sent you away. I was wrong, and I hope you can forgive me," she said, her eyes filling with tears. "We're both broken people. I need help understanding how I could hurt someone I love so much. Will you go with me to a marriage counselor?" If Peggy had been stronger, her hug would have broken a few of my ribs. Family therapy, both individual and joint, opened up old wounds, but this time we stitched them up and applied the appropriate bandages. I explained in detail why I had lost control, and Peggy told me that before closing her account, she had done nothing but make phone calls and video chat. We cried. We hugged. "We're going to survive." I asked my lawyer to withdraw the divorce papers. True to her word, Peggy never mentioned my infidelity or the fact that I gave her freedom. Neither did I. Since then, I've been a saint in my relationships with other women. I learned my lesson. 3 years later, we decided to start a family, and in a few months, we will have our first child. My mom still says she has never seen two people who love each other so much. Imperfect people, capable of making mistakes, but still very much in love. It's been 7 years since I divorced Kate. That miserable bitch still lives in our town. She got promoted and has been head of the school board for the last 3 years. My youngest daughter, Carla, started 10th grade. Like her sisters before her, she was an honor student, played sports, and was actively involved in the school theater and music clubs. Carla is the last daughter left at home. Kylie is now a junior at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and if she continues to get good grades, she will stay at that university and earn a master's degree in mechanical engineering. Kara is a freshman at Boston University, studying finance and accounting. Carla was only 8 years old when I divorced her lying, cheating mother. While her older sisters knew about their mother's betrayal and had practically cut her out of their lives, Carla didn't understand the full implications of Kate's actions. As a result, she had dinner with her mother once or twice a week, and often spent weekends at Kate's house. I sat in my office on the second floor of an old converted barn that I had inherited from my grandfather. I felt disgusted with myself as I reread the New Year's resolutions I had made just a month ago. 1. Lose 15 pounds. I gained 1. Second, exercise for 45 minutes a day. I missed 7 days. 3. Stop snacking after dinner. Damn it. I ate an average of 2 snacks and drank beer every night. 4. Have sex twice a week. I averaged 1 date a week. 5. Write 1 story a month and publish it on my website. It was early February and I hadn't published a single story. 6. Clean out my file cabinet. Over the past 25 years, I have accumulated so much paper in my personal and professional life that it completely filled 23 filing cabinets with 4 drawers. I rarely went into the file room. Over the past 5 years, almost all of my files have been stored on my computer and in the cloud. I considered calling a truck with an industrial shredder, driving to the shed, and throwing the contents of each cabinet drawer into the shredder, but I knew that irreplaceable treasures were buried among the junk. I committed to cleaning out 1 drawer a day, but never got started on the project. I tossed the list of resolutions on the desk, grumbled as I got up from my chair, and headed for the archive. I pulled the oldest box out of the cabinet and set it on a folding table. I dragged a large trash can over to the table and began going through each folder. I have to admit that this task turned out to be much more interesting than I expected. I found documents about the first house I sold when I was a sophomore working for my grandfather. I stumbled upon a folder filled with U.S. government bonds that my grandparents had bought for my daughter when she was a baby. The cabinets were full of treasures, old photos, school projects and report cards, original birth and baptism certificates. On the fourth day of the project, my life was turned upside down. I found documents about my ex-wife's stay in the hospital when she gave birth to Carla. I smiled when I compared the prices in the documents with current prices. And then I saw it. My ex's document stated that her blood type was O positive. That was impossible. I also had blood type O, as did my two older daughters. Carla, the youngest, had the much rarer type B minus. Over the next few hours, I found 6 separate folders with old medical records that confirmed our blood types. There was no mistake. Carla was not my biological daughter. After endless hours and several detailed plans to kidnap, torture, and send my ex-wife to an African brothel, to the hold of a cargo ship where the crew would rape her constantly, I realized. I knew I couldn't do anything that would jeopardize the 2 precious years I had left with Carla before she left home for college. It took more than a week to decide to keep this grotesque family secret for the time being. I was sure my ex didn't know I wasn't Carla's father. If she found out, she would fight for custody and most likely get all 3 girls. At least I was grateful that I was allowed to raise my daughters. The only thing I did was quietly take an official DNA test. The results confirmed what I already knew. Almost exactly 2 years later, between Christmas and New Year's Eve, I was sitting at the table with my 3 daughters. As always, I was enjoying their jokes, laughter, and fun. I had been preparing for this all day, and when dinner was over and the conversation died down, I looked at Kylie and Kara and said, "I need to talk to Carla. Clear the table." Both girls agreed and teased their sister that she was in trouble and would have to stay home for the entire Christmas break. I said to Carla, "Let's go to my office. I want to talk to your sisters." Carla teased her sister, saying, "Look who's in trouble." Smiling and waving, she walked out the back door and headed for my office above the barn. "What are your plans for tonight?" Kara replied, "We're going to the barn to hang out with some old school friends." I nodded and tried to smile, but my emotions began to overwhelm me. "Dad, are you okay?" Kylie asked. I needed a moment to collect my thoughts. I asked the girls, "Maybe you should cancel your plans. I think your sister needs your help." "Is Carla okay?" Kylie asked. "Is she sick?" Kara asked. "She's not sick. I have some very bad news to tell her. In fact, it's terrible news. I know she's going to need your support." "Tell us, Dad," Kara pleaded. I had thought about telling the older girls first, but I couldn't make up my mind until Kara asked her question. "Your sister is 18. She's an adult. I have to tell her first. It won't take long. I'll let you know when I need your help." I got up from the table, leaving the worried girls behind, and walked through the backyard to my study. Carla was sitting on the sofa across from my desk. Instead of sitting next to her, I sat down on the coffee table in front of her. We sat knee to knee. I asked, "Remember when I was cleaning out the old papers in the back room?" Carla nodded and said, "Yes, that was a few years ago. I went through everything very carefully, looking through every file in every drawer. I knew that among the useless papers were important family valuables." Carla kept nodding, showing that she understood. "I found something in the papers that I need to talk to you about. It's important. This information has caused me physical discomfort. I'm still in shock. Normally, I would try to shield you from this kind of pain, But you need to know about this, especially before you leave for college. I want to tell you now, while your sisters are home and can support you. I also want you to be able to adjust to this information before you leave for college. Dad, I'm scared. Don't be afraid. We'll get through this as a family. I handed Carla the folder from the kitchen. When she opened it, I said, "These are medical records from when your mom was in the hospital when you were born." Okay. Carla flipped through the pages of the folder and came across a page with a large red circle. After reading the information in the circle, she said, "I didn't know Mom's blood type was O." Carla is a smart girl and loves all areas of science. I could see her brain working. She flipped through the rest of the pages in the folder. There were no other highlighted sections. Carla thought about the information in the folder for a minute, then looked at me questioningly. She started crying and reached for me, and I hurried to sit down next to her on the couch. I hugged her as she began to cry. "Dad, what's your blood type?" When I answered, "Oh," Carla howled like a wounded animal. She clung to me with all her might and cried, "You're my only dad." "And you're my girl." We hugged for a long time. Every few minutes I heard the sound of a ding, meaning I had received a message. Pulling away from Carla and looking into her eyes, I said, "Your sisters are texting me that they want to come and be with you. I'll call them." Before I could reach my phone, Carla asked, "Do they know?" I shook my head and said, "I thought I should tell you first, but we should share this news with them." Carla nodded and told me to call her sisters. I picked up my phone from the table and typed in the messenger app, "Come over." Carla hugged me and cried. She cried even harder when we heard her sisters stomping up the stairs to my office. The girls ran into the office, jumped on the couch, and we all hugged each other. A few minutes later, Kylie asked, "What has our bitch mother done this time?" I even laughed and replied, "How do you know it's about your mother?" Kara replied, "We have ups and downs, just like any normal family. When things go really bad, it's always Mom's fault." Deep in my chest, a quiet voice agreed with Kara. "She's a bitch." Kylie and Kara were stunned by their sister's comment, and were no less stunned when I said sternly, "Girls, we don't use—" "Oh, shit. She's a bitch." Carla giggled and we untangled ourselves. We moved seats. Kara and Kylie hugged their younger sister, and I sat down at the table across from them. Carla looked at me and said, "I can't tell them, Dad." "Will you?" I began. "I will always be Carla's father. No one will ever take that honor and privilege away from me." Kylie and Kara looked confused, and I continued. "I recently found out that I am not her biological father." It took a few moments to process this information, and then all hell broke loose. The next few minutes were filled with tears, hugs, cursing, and yelling. When everyone calmed down, Kylie asked, "Who is this bastard, the donor?" "I don't know," I admitted. Kara asked her sister, "Are you going to ask Mom who your father is?" I surprised everyone by replying, "I don't think your mom knows that I'm not Carla's biological father." Everyone turned and looked at me in surprise. "Why did you say that?" Kara asked. I explained. Our divorce was quite scandalous. At the same time, because of your mother's position in our town, she had to be careful not to ruin her reputation. She didn't want everyone to know that she was to blame for the divorce. I promised to keep my mouth shut if she gave me primary custody. All three girls nodded, showing that they understood. "I'll never be 100% sure, but knowing your mother, I think she would have fought for custody if she had known that I wasn't Carla's biological father. The court wouldn't have had much choice, and I suspect you would have been given to your mother." "She's dead to me," Carla said, and her sisters nodded in agreement. She continued, "I don't want that bitch to find out about this, at least not until I've thought it through." We were silent, waiting for her to continue. "Soon I'll make that girl regret the day she was born." Then looking at me, she concluded, "I hope you don't have to get me out of jail." We all smiled, and I asked, "Can I give you some advice?" "Of course, Dad." "I'll support you in everything you do. But remember, you have to look at yourself in the mirror. Don't stoop to your mother's incredibly low level." The first call from Kate came 3 weeks later. "What the hell happened to Carla?" she screamed into the phone. "Carla's fine. She's beautiful." "Damn it, no. I haven't seen her since Christmas except for 2 weeks ago at my parents' house." "And?" I asked. "She was wonderful to everyone except me. She treated me like shit. She's not answering my calls or texts. She didn't come to dinner. Something is wrong, and I want to know what it is. Won't you ask her?" I replied, "No, I won't. She's fine with me and her sisters. Her teachers haven't reported any problems to me. Coach Amy said Carla is a natural leader and the best captain the girls' basketball team has ever had. It seems like you're the only one who has a problem with Carla, and I don't want to get involved." I hung up and didn't answer when Kate called back a minute later. The next few months flew by. Late spring arrived, and basketball games gave way to lacrosse. I saw Kate at Carla's games sometimes. After every game, Carla would find me in the crowd of parents and give me a hug. She completely ignored her mother. Kate called me every week and demanded that I find out what was going on. After a couple of calls, I decided not to answer and deleted all her messages without listening to them. At the end of the school year, I went to the graduation banquet. Carla received 3 awards. She was awarded the award for Best Student in Chemistry and the highest award from the theater department. No one was surprised when her name was announced as the winner of the Glasgow Award for Best Female Athlete in the graduating class. Carla was allowed to give a short 3-minute speech as the Glasgow Award winner. Carla not only thanked her family, coaches, and teammates, but also gave many specific examples of how each person contributed to her success on the court and on the field. The sincerity of her words touched everyone present. I noticed that some people, especially among the school staff, raised their eyebrows when Carla did not mention the contribution of the school principal, her mother. The high school graduation ceremony took place on Thursday evening, a week after the prom. We had 532 graduates. Due to the large number of graduates, the graduation ceremony was held annually in the main gymnasium of the local college. I sat in the stands next to Kylie and Kara. I couldn't see my parents, but I knew they were there. I spotted the girls' grandparents and their vulgar aunts in the stands across from us. I couldn't have been prouder when the student section and many of those in attendance erupted in applause upon hearing the MC announce, "Carla Lillian Harrington." I smiled broadly as my daughter crossed the stage proudly and confidently. I wondered how Carla would handle the moment, but decided that I trusted my youngest daughter enough that she wouldn't embarrass herself. The thing was, the first person Carla was supposed to meet in the reception line was the school principal, her mother. Kate stood proudly, holding Carla's diploma, waiting for her daughter to come up and shake her hand. Everyone fell silent when Carla stopped 6 meters away from her mother. As Kate's radiant smile began to fade, Carla raised both fists, palms toward the ceiling. She froze for a moment, then slowly extended her middle fingers. Thousands of people gasped, then there was dead silence. I think Carla's "Go, Mom" could be heard half a kilometer away. Carla turned on her heels and walked back to the stage entrance. As she passed the row of students waiting to go on stage, many of them raised their hands and waved to Carla. Carla returned to her seat, and the noise in the crowd grew louder. She sat down, crossed her legs like a lady, and folded her hands in her lap. No one could miss her beaming smile. The teacher who announced the names of the graduates was an old teacher who had seen it all. It took him only a few seconds to call the next student, David Michael Havel, and the graduation ceremony continued. My family and I had lived in this town for over 20 years. Thanks to my business connections, my wife's position, and the reputation of all 3 of my daughters, we were very well known. I suspect that many were confused by the Harringtons' reaction to Carla's outburst. I remained calm, but my brain was working overtime. I quickly decided that this wasn't over and tried to figure out what Carla might do next. Kylie and Kara sat to my right, giggling and clapping like idiots. Fortunately, the graduation ceremony ended without further incident. After the ceremony, the girls and I went to the gym lobby to find Carla. As we stood there huddled together, I noticed that 2 pairs of grandmothers and aunts were also standing together, but for some reason, they didn't approach us. We only had to wait a few minutes before we saw Carla jumping around the hall. She ran up to me, hugged me around the neck, and said, "Oh, I forgot my diploma." She was busy hugging her sisters when Jim Miller, the school principal, approached me. Jim looked at me and said, "Carla is now a graduate, so I can't punish her for her behavior, but I deserve an explanation from Carla." "I agree, and I'll ask her to come see you in your office next week," I replied, quickly adding, "May I offer some advice?" My request caught Jim off guard, so I continued. "I didn't know Carla was going to disrupt the ceremony, but I know why she did it. I believe what we just witnessed is the first act of a 2-part play. My advice is to stay put." I pointed to the corner of the lobby, about 20 feet away from us. I finished, "I don't think you want to be in the middle of the second act." I looked over Jim's shoulder and saw Kate. She had spotted our group and was walking toward us as fast as her 4-inch heels would allow. I leaned over and whispered, "Kate will be here in 15 seconds. It's going to be unpleasant." Jim looked over his shoulder and saw the same expression on Kate's face that I saw on mine. He nodded briefly to me and stepped back into the corner. I wondered if Kate had noticed that the closer she got to our group, the quieter the hall became. I glanced quickly at Carla. I didn't know what she was going to do, but she looked ready. When Kate walked past the group of grandmothers, grandfathers, and aunts, they followed her. Kate stopped an arm's length away from Carla and asked, "What was that?" Carla's deliberate smirk made her mother's face redden. "I'll answer your question if you let me ask one first." It seemed as if everyone in the lobby was trying to sneak closer to hear what they were saying. Kate was too angry to respond, so Carla asked much louder than necessary, "Who is my biological father?" There was a dead silence, and Kate's face contorted. She gasped, "What?" Kara intervened and repeated, "My sister wants to know the name of her biological father." Kate pointed at me and almost shouted, "Your biological father is standing right here." I shook my head and said, "No, it's not me." Kate opened her mouth, but before she could say a word, Kylie announced to Carla, "The month you were conceived, she had so many men she doesn't even know your father's name." Kate swung her open palm at her eldest daughter. I saw that she was going to hit her, but I couldn't do anything to stop her. Suddenly, Carla's maternal grandfather reached out and grabbed Kate by the wrist. "Don't you dare hit my granddaughter!" George ordered. George came over to me and asked, "You're not Carla's biological father, are you?" I shook my head and replied, "No." "How long have you known?" he wanted to know. "Not long." He shifted slightly and crouched down to look into Carla's eyes. It took George a few seconds to collect his thoughts before he said, "If things had turned out differently, I wouldn't have 3 beautiful granddaughters. You and your sisters are wonderful in so many ways because of the man who is holding you by the shoulder, your father." Tears streamed down George's cheeks as he continued, "Your grandmother and I, both your grandfathers would have wanted you to never have to go through this pain, but know that we love you and are incredibly proud of the young woman you have become." George leaned over and kissed Carla on the cheek. George kissed Kylie and Kara. He turned to me, hugged me, and whispered sadly, "I don't know what I did to deserve 3 such headstrong daughters." He kissed me on the cheek and turned to my father. George stood up straight and puffed out his chest. Looking at my father, he said, "I am so sorry that my family has caused your family so much pain and grief. I will be forever ashamed of that." George took his wife Anne by the hand and slowly led her to the exit. The crowd parted to let the elderly couple pass. I was incredibly proud of Carla when she took her sisters by the arm and shouted, "Wait, Grandma and Grandpa, you promised me a holiday dinner." As she passed my parents, Kylie said, "You better believe you're coming too." She took my mother by the hand and practically dragged her along. Dad glanced at me. I smiled, winked, and whispered, "Have fun." Kate and I, along with her older sisters Mickey and Jen, watched as the two sets of grandparents and three granddaughters headed for the lobby exit. Kate turned and asked, "Can we talk in private?" Her eyes were wet, and she was on the verge of tears. I thought about Kate's request for half a second, then shook my head. "No thanks, Kate. I don't have anything to talk to you about." As I turned and started to make my way through the crowd of onlookers, Kate called after me, "Please, Chris, we need to work this out." At 52, I was semi-retired. The resale market was oversaturated with dreamers and weekend warriors who were convinced that anyone could make money fixing up houses. I made additional changes to the direction of my business. I helped create a real estate fund that invested in old, outdated shopping malls. Our group bought old properties, often with significant tax breaks from the city and state. We renovated and updated the properties, then leased the space. I discovered that I could find new projects and oversee the renovations using only a laptop and a cell phone, which meant I could work from anywhere in the world. Last summer, I bought a small motorhome and drove to Tennessee. For 5 weeks, I worked a few hours each morning and spent my afternoons hiking in the Blue Ridge Mountains. I lost almost 14 kilograms and walked nearly 480 kilometers. I ate fish I caught in nearby rivers and streams and lived a relatively simple life. The following spring, on a Wednesday afternoon, I felt restless. I was sitting in my home office and felt uneasy. Without thinking about the possible consequences, I left the office, went to the barn, and hitched my Jeep Wrangler to the back of my pickup truck. After gathering a few days' worth of supplies, I headed west and arrived at my daughter Keely's house 2 hours later. I arrived in a small town in Westchester County, New York, where Keely and her family had decided to settle. I pulled the pickup truck into the driveway and unhooked the Jeep. By 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I had connected the water and electricity and was sitting on a folding chair on the driveway, enjoying a book. Just 20 minutes later, the school bus stopped 2 houses down from my daughter's house. 5 little kids got off the bus, and I saw that my grandson recognized me. He shouted, "Grandpa, it's me, Bryce." I replied, "Bryce, it's me, Grandpa." Bryce ran across 2 lawns and threw himself into my arms. We talked for a few minutes, and then I asked the 6-year-old boy, "Want to play ball?" He agreed, ran to the garage, opened the door with the remote control, and took out his baseball glove. We had just stood on the lawn in front of the house and thrown a few balls when a local police car pulled up to the curb. A few seconds later, a second car pulled up on the opposite side. 2 police officers got out of the first car, and a third got out of the second. I was concerned, but almost certain that someone had called the police to check on the strange old man playing with Bryce. I crouched down next to Bryce, pointed to the lone cop, and said loudly enough for all the cops to hear, "Bryce, I want you to go up to that cop and say, 'Hello, I'm Bryce. How can I help you?'" I pointed to the other 2 police officers and said, "I'm going to go up to those police officers and say, 'Hello, I'm the grandfather. I'm Bryce's grandfather. How can I help you?'" The police officers visibly relaxed when I slapped Bryce on the butt, and he ran up to the police officer. I didn't hear what Bryce said, but I responded in kind when Bryce gave me a thumbs up. I walked over to the other 2 police officers. One of them was an older woman with sergeant stripes on her uniform. The other officer looked too young to be a cop. I walked over and introduced myself. The young officer said, "Your grandson's babysitter is our neighbor. She called us when she saw Bryce playing with you. Apparently, she's never met you and was worried when he didn't come home." When the officer finished, Bryce and the third officer joined us. I asked Bryce, "Where do you usually go when you get off the school bus?" Bryce pointed down the street. An elderly woman was standing in the doorway of a house, looking in our direction. Bryce said, "I'm going to Mrs. Walsh's. She watches me until my mom gets home." At that moment, Kylie's SUV pulled up to the house and screeched to a halt. She jumped out of the car. She was excited, but her face showed relief. Kylie said to us, "When Pops Harrington comes to town, something interesting always happens." After Kylie arrived, everything quickly became clear. While she was talking to the junior officers, the sergeant asked me, "How do you like your motorhome?" I replied, "I've only had it for a year. Last summer, I explored the Blue Ridge Mountains in Tennessee and really enjoyed my vacation. This summer, I plan to head west and spend about a month traveling through the Rocky Mountains." The sergeant confessed, "I'm retiring in 2 months, and for a year now I've been thinking about escaping and exploring all the places I've always wanted to see." It was a very hot day, even at 7,500 feet on the summit of Patterson Peak. I was shoulder-deep in a small lake nestled in the southern part of the Rocky Mountains. After meeting at Kylie's house, Lydia and I decided to meet up in a couple of days for a drink. Our excuse was to discuss life in a motorhome, but we spent a lot of time sharing stories from our lives. The following weekend, we met in New York City for dinner and a Broadway show. By the time Lydia officially retired, we were already meeting on Friday evenings and spending our weekends together. No one was surprised when I headed to Colorado with Lydia as my co-pilot.